Hello everyone, Theoretic here, and today I'm going to talk to you about why you shouldn't do any crafting in New World until you reach level 30. At the time of making this video, I have logged nearly 90 hours playing the New World preview event, and unlike most people who rushed to max level and ran rifts most of their time in the game, I spent over half my time crafting. So it's safe to say that I have more than 45 hours of crafting experience in the 7 days that I've been playing the preview, which is crazy because it's like a part-time job. Now, while this is not very impressive from a long-term standpoint, it's enough to help anyone new to the game learn from my experience so that they can save themselves time and precious in-game resources. These tips are pretty fundamental and unlikely to change much over time, so this video will still be helpful even if you're watching it after the official launch of the game. So, why should you wait until after character level 30 to craft a single thing in the game? The first thing is satchel space. In your character screen, you'll notice that you can equip a second satchel at level 30. This increases your carryable weight by 200 if you equip a second tier 3 satchel. With a single tier 3 satchel, you will have 300 total weight, while two give you a total of 500, which is a 66% increase in carry space. So essentially, if you wait until you get both satchels at level 30, you will be 66% more efficient in collecting resources each time you go out to either mine or skin or collect fiber or log lumber, because you can spend more time gathering and less time walking. The next thing is that while you are leveling, you'll be getting gear from quests or from chests or from mobs dropping them. And this gear can have perks on it that will help you with either crafting or collecting materials. So for instance, some gear has luck for mining, skinning, logging, and harvesting. And this luck can help you get rarer materials. Now there's a second type of perk called extra pockets. A full set of gear with the tier 1 extra pockets perk will net you 100 extra carrying weight in your inventory. So if you have both satchels and a full set of tier 1 extra pockets, you will get a whole nother 1/5 more carrying space, which is pretty big. Now tier 2 will give you 125 extra, and tier 3 will give you 150 extra, though these amounts could change in the future patches or upon the game releasing. So as you can imagine, just from these first two things that I recommend, you're going to be able to carry a lot more resources when gathering materials, which is going to allow you to smelt more at one time. It's going to allow you to craft more at one time and do less running around trying to find resources. The next reason why you should wait till level 30 to do any crafting is that you will have better ease of access to hard to get materials, meaning you will be high enough level to deal with mobs in certain areas that you have to farm, such as getting oil. The mobs there are level 30 to 35, and oftentimes you have to fight them off in order to farm the node. Well, if you're too low of a level, you're going to end up just dying a lot and getting frustrated and not be able to get anything. With that said, there will be some materials that you will need even higher level than 30 in order to farm efficiently. And the next reason to wait until level 30 is in-game experience. The more experience you have in the game, the less time you're going to waste, the less materials you're going to waste while crafting. This is because you will have a better understanding of the gear types, the better understanding of the weapon types, what you need as a character, and what things you should be crafting. You also will get a better idea of how hard it is to find certain materials like the tannin or sand flux or sandpaper. These are things that once you run out, you realize it takes an incredible amount of time and effort to farm up enough of them to make a difference in your leveling of your craft. So instead of using these rare materials in the actual leveling process, I would recommend saving them for when you need to make a specific piece of gear or when somebody asks you if they can pay you to craft an item. Now, another thing that attributes to having in-game experience in regards to crafting is that you might think you need a certain piece of armor early on and put a lot of these rare materials into getting that piece of armor, only to realize that it's easily replaced, or you crafted 60 different heavy armor sets and got nothing from them. I actually did this early on. I made myself a lot of heavy armor, got the ones I needed. It lasted me quite a while and was actually pretty useful. But in the end, I realized I needed light armor so that I could do a lot of dodging and rolling, and I just really did nothing but waste those precious materials. All right, on to the next reason you need to wait until you're level 30 to craft, and that is you need to level up your standing. The only way to level up your standing in your chosen region, or where you're going to keep all your materials and do your crafting, is by spending a lot of time in that region completing quests, doing rifts, and completing board or faction missions. All of which is stuff that you want to be doing while leveling your character, and not stuff you want to have to think about while crafting. And also you're missing out on a lot of perks that leveling up your standing provides, such as a larger stash. At first I thought my stash was huge and that I would never run out of space, so actually while I was leveling up my standing, I didn't choose to level up my stash once. And when I started getting into more and more crafting and, gathering more and more materials, and especially after I spent time leveling up to level 30 and throwing everything that I collected into my stash, I realized this isn't really that much space. So make sure that when you're leveling up your standing for the region that you're going to be crafting in, that you make sure to choose the larger stash every time it comes up. This is going to be very important because no amount of room is enough room. You just want to keep adding to the stash. Whatever you choose to do beyond that is up to you. I personally like to choose the lower costs for the crafting stations and the faster gathering speed for my standing. Now, moving on to the next reason you want to wait until level 30 is so that you can become familiar with the trading posts and learn what sells for how much. This is going to be very important because the things that you craft, you're going to want to sell as much of that as possible. So while you're leveling up from 1 to 30, post as much stuff as you can on the trading post. That way you can learn how the trading post works and what sells on the trading post, and chances are you're gonna end up with more money than if you didn't do this, obviously. I made the mistake of not touching the trading post at all up to level 30, and by that time I only had about 2,000 gold. Now this was after buying the housing, but at most I would have had about 5,000 gold. So don't do that. Use the trading post, keep some of the things that you get from the field, keep some of the things that you don't want. Don't salvage everything, and go to the trading post, put the good stuff on there, try to make some money and learn how it works. This is going to be very valuable for when you go to sell the things that you're crafting. You also want to make sure that you do not, for the love of God, sell materials used in crafting. This includes the tannin, the sandpaper, the sand flux, the solvents. So don't sell any of that stuff on the market. You will need every single drop of those things, I promise you. Now, the exception to this is tier 2 cloth, ingots, leather, or timber. Feel free to try to sell these things on the market, but chances are that the market's going to be overstocked with these items and they're going to be worth next to nothing. And I want to re-stress to please do not sell the tannin, the sandpaper, the sand flux, or the solvents, because you will need these, and definitely never drop them. And finally, the last thing I have here for why you should wait until you're level 30 is that you will have plenty of crafting materials to craft with, so collect everything you can while leveling. And I mean everything. Keep all food items and start cooking. Cooking and engineering are the only exception to the don't craft until you're level 30 rule. You only need engineering to craft ammo and arrows. That's it. Don't craft any weapons. Don't craft anything else. Just ammo and arrows. But cooking will be a literal lifesaver in both PvE and PvP. So cook to your heart's content. I don't care if you go out and farm materials to cook. It doesn't matter. Cooking is the exception to this rule. Cook, 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 because it's super important. Despite what you may hear, cooking is probably one of the most useful crafts you can learn. And take some time to look around the kitchen and read how the food affects your character. It affects your crafting, it affects your healing, it affects your defenses, it affects your mana regen, all of that. There's food for everything. And also craft food in the kitchen every time you're back at a settlement and start using that food to heal yourself in the field. Over time, you will learn what you do and don't need, because it feels kind of underwhelming at first, especially when you're shoving down like 40 rations into your throat every 10 minutes. You're wondering why you're doing that, or why you're carrying all this food you've been cooking. Food really doesn't become super useful until you can make the tier 3 food items, but just keep at it, keep leveling it, because it is important. At one point, Sir Medieval said in one of his videos that you can stack up to like 5 different food items to get a regen stack from each one, which will keep your health just constantly regenning. So it does become very important when you're trying to fight other players or fighting mobs or rifts and the like. So definitely do that, definitely cook, and definitely use what you have cooked. So while you're running around the map, you want to make sure that you are farming any ore that you come across. Pick any fiber, any herbs, any berries, skin every animal that you kill. You don't have to go out of your way for these things, like spend a half hour to an hour just doing nothing but killing wolves and skinning them. But if you're doing a quest where you have to kill wolves, skin the wolves. If you're running through the forest and the wolf attacks you and you kill it, skin the wolf. If you see a rabbit in your path, you're not like going out of your way, then kill the rabbit and skin it really quick. And if you are doing this for the mining, the skinning, and the harvesting, then you're going to have those leveled up to a nice harvesting level by the time that you're level 30. So it'll really help you out when you go to gather these things later on in the game. But like I said, you don't have to go out of your way, because once you do start trying to farm these materials, you will farm plenty of them and you'll get plenty of levels in these things. But if you can get the harvesting up to level 30, then you can start collecting the different motes. So when you see the life bloom or the shock bulb, you can go ahead and harvest those things and keep the motes and then stash them in the settlement later. They don't take up much space in your settlement, so they're a nice thing to just constantly be harvesting and constantly be putting away. Because when you go to either make life staffs or level up your potion making, you're going to be using all of these things. So the more that you can do this while you're leveling up, the better. But as far as any ore or fiber or skins or wood that you find, you can just drop these things for better stuff like clothing or materials. Just don't worry about keeping them, because I don't want you wasting your time lugging around 500 iron just to smelt a few bars when you get back to town. Instead, you're gonna be able to get like 2,000 iron ores from a single run, or even more depending on if you have the extra pockets perk or not. But just in one run you'll get 2,000 plus ores. So don't waste your time with small amounts and trying to do it here or there. Not only that, but you'll run out of space in your stash if you're trying to smelt ores and stash them. Now, you could smelt them and put them on the market if you want, but like I said, these things are probably going to be, overflowing the market. It's going to be very hard to sell them. So in my opinion, I think you can just drop those things. Now, I mentioned herbs, mining, and skinning, but you might be thinking, well, what about logging? Don't worry about trying to cut down trees. Logging is probably one of the least important skills that you need to level up out of all the gathering skills. And this is because there's really only one type of wood until your logging is up to like 225, which I don't even have that doing 45 hours of crafting. But I do want to point out that currently, small trees, which take less time to log, will give you the same experience as a larger tree. So when you first start logging in order to collect wood, make sure that you're doing nothing but chopping down a bunch of little trees. You will get less logs per tree, but this will level up your logging a lot faster. So I believe that's everything. Those are all of my tips for why you should wait until level 30 before you do any crafting in New World. And you might even want to wait longer. But I do really appreciate you guys watching. And if there's any tips that you guys have that I didn't talk about in this video, please leave a comment below to let everyone else know. And if you found this video helpful, like the video, hit the subscribe button, and enable those notifications to get any updates on future videos that I release. And as always, guys, have an amazing day.